Hey, welcome to Authentic Chat Podcast. We're on number 12. You all ready for this?
Ready.
All right, let's get started. All right, so Authentic Chat Podcast is our way of just bringing the message of Sunday into the rest of the week. But this week, got a little bit. It's an interesting week for us at Authentic Church. We are hosting an event. Here's what it's called. It's going to be the Egypt and the Biblical World. So that's the event we're hosting this Saturday from 9 a.m. Until 3 p.m. So I wanted to give a chance to bring in some special guests and talk about that. So with me this evening, I've got Pastor Corey. Of course, we're going to be talking about how we as a church are going to be hosting this. And I got Pastor Jimmy, who is my dad, one of Authentic Church overseers, and a member of Talmudim Studies, who is the one bringing George DeYoung in. And David Miller is also with Talmudim Studies. So, hey, glad you guys are here.
Thank you.
It's good to be here.
All right.
Good to be here.
So, Corey, you ready?
Yeah.
Are you pumped for this weekend?
It's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be an awesome weekend. So as we get ready to get into this, we need to get some definitions of what's going on, who we are, who's Talmudim Studies. So who wants to answer that question? Who's Talmudim Studies, and why are you coming to hang out with Authentic Church this Saturday?
Well, Jimmy's been with Talmudim Studies for the longest. I think he's got some good history that you can share with us.
Well, actually, would have been Joe Mollett, Vern Beachy, Lee Byler, Mose Miller, myself, back in after 2008 trip to Israel, studying the Bible in the land. We realized that we needed to have some things where we actually study in the context, understanding the language, understanding the land, understanding some of the things that we don't really get because we've been Christianized. It's just kind of a made-up word because of a thing we go on in it. To be authentic, as you know, authentic churches, we need to sometimes study in an authentic condition, situation, authentic land. And so therefore we thought that was important to do that, so we started Talmudim Studies. Talmudim is Hebrew for disciples. I am to a Hebrew word is like S to the English. So a Talmud is a disciple, Talmudim is disciples. And that's what we want to be. A disciple, a Jewish disciple is more than just a student. And that's how it would be translated sometimes. But a Talmud would actually, desire would be to become like their rabbi. So Jesus is our rabbi and our desire is to become like him. So we wanted to study him in his context, in his culture, and the land where he lived. And that's why we also want to bring George DeYoung here.
All right. So we're in the middle of a series. Actually, we're in the tail end of a series. So those of you that are from Authentic Church that are joining us, you guys know we're finishing out. We got one more week in the book of Jeremiah, and it's pretty interesting because this week on Sunday we're going to be talking how Jeremiah actually is hauled off to Egypt, and so it's interesting because Egypt plays a role in every single book of the Old Testament. And it's also found in the book of Revelation. So all the way throughout Scripture, we see this country, this geographical area, playing a vital role in the understanding the Egypt and the biblical world. So I'm excited about this weekend, talking to George and hearing from him and understanding Egypt in a greater way. David, what's for you? What are you looking forward most out of this weekend?
So I'll just share a little bit about the way I understand Egypt and the whole. Obviously, the most important story in our Bible about Egypt is the Exodus, and from what I've studied already, the Exodus has been is the underlying paradigm from the time it happened in the Bible going forth. Every Jewish person will tell you that's the core theme of when they study. They always go back to the Exodus. And the Exodus happened in Egypt. And so, like, this weekend, to me, it's like, why do we need to know about Egypt, and it's because of the Exodus and what happened there and that story. And George, what I just love about George is how he brings out what was going on in Egypt in that culture, and brings a great understanding to the story that was brought in the Bible.
So, Dave, I want to back up a little bit because what got you so interested in understanding, to coming to the Talmudim studies and digging into the contextual side of studying the Word of God? What grabbed you?
So before, I remember, I remember first hearing this from Ray Vander Laan. And those of you who have known Talmudim studies, and you'll remember the events that we've done with Ray already in the past. And I still remember the first day I heard Ray speak. And before that, I've always been an avid Bible scholar, but when Ray taught, and when I was first introduced to understanding the biblical culture, I think that's what you were asking,
Yeah.
all of a sudden I just saw a world of life come to being that I never saw by just reading the story. All of a sudden you started to see a real people in a real place, in a real land. And they had real struggles, just like we have today. And all of a sudden, the Bible came to life in a real and meaningful way.
So, and I don't want to put words in your mouth. So let me clarify. Well, let me say
Sure.
what I'm hearing. When you hear this and come to hearing people like George DeYoung and Ray Vander Laan, those guys speak about the context side of the culture of the Bible. It helps you better understand the words that you're reading off a page.
Yes, absolutely.
So it brings it to life.
Yes.
Corey, you've had the experience of being. You and I went with Ray Vander Laan to Israel.
Mhm.
You've been. Who you went with a group from Talmudim?
Yeah.
So kind of bring that with that picture or that your experience. Why would people want to come hear George DeYoung talk about from your perspective?
Yeah, definitely. I remember both of those trips, and the way you were describing it is similar to my experience. As far as if you think of any story that you could ever tell, let alone the greatest story ever told.
Yeah.
But if you just think of any story ever told, the thing that makes it so beautiful is when you're able to actually step into it and kind of see things the way it was originally. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even like the
Yeah.
eyewitness accounts that you read in the Bible, to go and to stand in the same place that the people writing the story stood when they were retelling the story and while it was actually happening, the people who
Yeah.
lived the story. I mean, to say it makes it come to life is almost an understatement, but that's exactly what it does. It makes the whole story come to life, and what it did for me is it made it more personal.
Yeah.
Made me be able to
Mhm.
relate to it as a human being,
Yeah.
reading about human beings, as opposed to just thinking this is some ancient text and I'm so far removed from it that what could it possibly have to do with me? It makes you step into something and you just have this realization like these are real people serving a real God, and I'm invited into this story.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And I like that because my mind immediately goes to Lois Tverberg, and she'll be one of the. We'll have her books on at the conference this weekend. She describes it as it's like you're going to the beach and you've been here to the beach, you've enjoyed the sunrises, the sunsets. Oh, it's just such a beautiful place. You've gone swimming, but one day you get a diver's outfit to go surfing, and you go underneath the water, and all of a sudden that whole beach and that underwater the waves become so different. Like there's just a world of color and beauty and animals and fish underneath that you've never seen before. It just brings a deeper level of understanding and
Appreciation.
appreciation for
Yeah.
that place.
It's a great word example too, because we're not saying that what we know is wrong or any different, but the perspective from the beach is different than the perspective under the water.
Yeah.
But they go together, and when you have them together, the panoramic, well, that's not even a good word, but the view from so many different perspectives is so vivid and so real and so alive. So that was a good word picture. I like that one.
Yeah.
And so obviously right now we're in the middle of a pandemic, and getting to Israel or getting to Egypt is next to impossible. And even if we weren't in that, we would have the expense of getting there is almost. We've all been blessed to have that experience. The next best thing is to have an expert come in and explain it to you, and not just. There's a difference between an expert who comes in and just says, this is what I saw, this is how it looked, and gives you facts and understanding. But someone who can pull you into not just the factual side of it, but pull you into the story of it. So, Dad, you were kind of sharing. You've had some opportunity to speak with George. How do you think he's going to bring those that are able to come this Saturday into that experience of Egypt?
Well, he's been there, done that. He's been there several years. He's got connections there in Egypt, but he's been studied in Israel. He studied in Turkey and studied in Egypt. So he has this view of all of them. And I don't think we understand how important. David mentioned the Exodus. When the Exodus is such an underlying story, when you look at Jesus, temptation, he was living out Egypt. If you look at the parallel, he's living out Egypt and all those things. When you look at Egypt, sometimes we don't realize that the plagues were the battle of the gods. It was God saying, who's the real God? Because each plague was a battle with a god of Egypt and one of their main gods. And so those are some of the things we need to realize. When you look at the feast, from Passover to Shavuot to what we call Pentecost and everything else we experience in the Western world, all those feasts come out of the Exodus. So understanding Egypt is vitally, vitally important, and understanding even Pharaoh himself was considered a god. And when you look at that, so could that be some of the reasons Jesus went to Egypt? Like you've been challenging people, well, come maybe hear some of those things. And those are important things. How did Israel end up in Egypt? Wasn't Joseph a blessing by going to Egypt? So how did they end up being enslaved? Why were they enslaved? And this whole story of these things makes it come so alive. And it's what I like. I use the analogy sometimes. Sunday school teachers teach a Noah and the Ark. Now I'm thankful for our Sunday school teachers because I know they're going a different direction. But as a kid, you see this toy cartoon-looking ark with two little draft heads sticking out of it. And when a young person goes to college and they tell them this is all a fable, they go, yeah, it is kind of fable because Noah's Ark, that was unreal. That wasn't, it's a little toy cartoon thing. But to know that it was way more than that, in counterpart, we have to understand these types of things. And I think people will miss out if they don't come and see the concept of Egypt, Exodus, and how it ties into the story.
Yeah, I'm excited because if you just do a quick overview of Egypt, they start off as saving Joseph, to be in a place where Joseph raises up and where Joseph can bring his family to be saved from the famine. And then it turns into a really negative place where the nation of Israel is under slavery. Mm-hmm. Then you got them leaving, but and there's times where Egypt is the ally of the Israelites and helping the Israelites in their own way, benefiting themselves. And then you have where Jesus is finding refuge again in Egypt. So it plays. I mean, Egypt, if we were to be honest with ourselves, plays a very role that we're similar to. We got this really good side of us. We got this really negative side of us. We've been on both sides of this. So I'm excited to hear how he takes us into that. So can you share some thoughts about George himself, like how his way that he teaches? Because I think a lot of people are going to be a little intimidated to come here as expert, but he doesn't speak as a college professor or share how he teaches.
Well, George is very personable. I kind of wish some of the others that could have been with us, because Vern and Joe actually had traveled with him and gone on some of these things. But I had been to a conference that he actually had in Sugar Creek a few years back. But he's a very personal type of guy, and he not only does he draw you in, but he's not an arrogant scholar. He's not like, I know it, you don't have it together. He's very personable and very touching, and he's very compassionate.
Shepherd.
I remember one time, he didn't even know he was ministering to me in one of the things that I was struggling with, and he reached out, and it made a difference and impact in my life, and I was able to go out and change some things in my life, and because of things he's done. And that's part of the reason, because we don't want to just have anybody, and not just any scholar, because there's people out there that can have all kinds of facts and teach you facts, but if they can't relate those facts, what difference does it make? But George is very personable, got the knowledge, very personable, and very touching and very compassionate and concerning. And so I really think you're going to miss out if it's something you don't make.
Yeah. George has got a shepherd's heart, pastor through and through. I just love being with him, and looking forward to spending a couple days with him, and then the conference on Saturday, and it's going to be a real treat.
It is going to be good. So, Corey, from you and I are kind of sitting in the same boat. We've never actually had the experience of George Young. What are your thoughts? What are you looking forward to?
Well, the thing that really hooked me was, I don't know if it was you that said it or if it was something that I read, but Egypt is mentioned over 700 times, or nearly 700 times throughout the Bible. So cover to cover in this epic narrative, it's talking about this place called Egypt. And I don't know who George is, but to me, anyone who's going to come give me a better perspective on Egypt and how it's going to help me understand the Bible better, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm sold. And from what I've heard from him already, it sounds like he's not just going to come give us a lecture, but he's going to come and lead us to understand, to follow Jesus better.
Well, I think anybody that's on the fence, I challenge you to go to YouTube, look up George Young, and look up some of his series. I've actually, on Facebook, I've posted some of his teachings. So, if you can't find it there, go to my Facebook page. If you don't have me, then be my friend. But anyway.
Is he bumping up his followers?
He just threw it out there.
Follow me on Instagram, Snapchat, and
I don't have Snapchat. Maybe I should start that one. But seriously, go check it out. They're short, some of them, but you'll see. And I think it's really I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be good. So, logistics, if you'd like to come and be a part of this, we have tickets. If you go to, if you're part of Authentic Church, you can go to the app, the Planning Center, Church Center app, and at the bottom, go to the events, and you can click and tell us who's coming, how many's coming. You can also go to the Talmudim Studies Facebook page, and there's an Eventbrite event that you can. So we just want to make sure we have enough space. Talmudim has hosted Ray Vander Laan, and there's been thousands there. It's almost a little overwhelming, and obviously with COVID and pandemic and all that's going on, this is going to be more intimate, and we do need to have a limit on how many people are going to be able to join us. So we want to make sure if you're going to be able to join us, grab a seat and let us know that you're going to be here. So it's going to be 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. We are going to take a break for lunch. We're going to have less than a half mile down from us is a bunch of local restaurants and chains that we can grab lunch, and then we'll come back and do this the second session. We're also going to be streaming live, so if you can't make it, which I completely understand if you can't, but we're going to stream it live. So you can watch it live, and then we're also afterwards going to be able to post it on the Talmudim YouTube channel, newly minted YouTube channel for the Talmudim Studies. It'll be there and if you'd like to get a link, we're going to have a way for you to get a link to purchase a link after the live event. So, man, it's going to be exciting. Any last words before we sign off and head out for the number 12 podcast?
Well, I will say this, if it helps any, we've had other people come in, scholars and stuff, but most of them have given us a certain amount we have to raise or they won't come. George didn't do that. He doesn't. He just wants to come because he wants to touch lives, and make a difference.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
So-
that's really good.
Yeah. So we will be taking a free will offering at the event. So if you're going to be there, it is free. So those tickets that I mentioned are free. We just want to make sure that we have seats available for everybody. Hey, we're so glad David joining us today. Thank you, Pastor Jimmy, Pastor Corey. Thanks for joining us. Hey guys, we love you. Appreciate you. Can't wait to hang out with you. Join us this Saturday. If not, we'll see you on Sunday, 9 a.m. or 11 a.m. Blessings.